Welcome to Bigfoot
and the Bunny.
This is a couple's journey into the mysterious,
The unknown, and the paranormal.
I'm your host, Chris Carr.
And I'm your host, Kristen Johnson.
Together we are Bigfoot and the Bunny.
And we are live for the second time tonight. And so now we're Bigfoot and the Bunny. We were Dark Horse Paranormal
a little while ago.
Yeah, we fooled you guys.
We're,
It's still us.
we're Bigfoot and the Bunny After Hours.
After Hours.
And
Yes, we're doing a
was
special After Hours show.
Our guest's idea, believe it or not.
And it's a good one. We like it. And we're going to bring him right on in a sec. We want to talk about the congressional hearings this week real quick. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw this. I think it was Tuesday. It's kind of interesting and kind of confusing. And I think we'll just bring on our guest and start talking about it because he loves the subject as well. Our guest is Dr. Michael Lynch. He's a fan favorite of our shows. And we talk about everything under the sun and about the sun.
And about the sun, yeah.
In fact, so we're going to bring him right on. Hey there.
Hello, everyone. Hey,
Welcome.
There you are.
The good doctor is in the house. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing very good. I'm doing very well. I've had a good week this week, and that's surprising. Normally, I'm just holding my head in migraines, but my sinuses have cleared up, and the rains have come. So I am in a storm watch right now. So if you lose me or something, it's because probably of atmospheric. It's not me. My system's working great now. I got it.
I'm going to go with that UFO behind
you.
Just abducting.
Yeah. So let's.
If you, I know.
Oh yeah.
I know what
that's
happened.
I'll just beam into it.
I want to believe.
Beam me up. Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't want to. I don't have to. It's a fact. You don't believe in facts. Facts are facts, and so you don't have to live in wonder or disbelief or live by faith. I have a lot of people that live by faith. I say no, I don't live by faith. I live by facts, and facts gives me more confidence than faith. Faith you can alter faith.
It's funny you mention that because we had the congressional hearings this week, right?
Yes.
And when we want to talk about facts, things get really cloudy with our government and the people that are kind of standing in front of our government that are supposedly disclosing the UAP or UFO phenomena. And, there are all these references to ATIP, for example.
This is a good example now.
And ATIP is only a nickname.
That's it.
It's not a real department in and of itself. And Lou Alzado was not the original director. There was another guy there. They were spending money on Skinwalker Ranch and looking at that.
That was that was NIDS. NIDS with Column Killer. They were kind of not paid by the government. I think that's a misnomer. They were paid by Bob Bigelow, who was then subcontracted for the government.
Bob got the money. Yeah.
Yeah. Bob got the money. But Bob, it's a long story, but
yeah, it is. I understand that it's a little convoluted, but one thing I wanted to point out to the audience, because I just wasn't aware of this. I never picked up on the fact that ATIP as an acronym itself is often changing. It's not the same thing. And it just further shows that it's a nickname and they don't have a real definitive acronym. In fact, they use different things. I'm going to share something.
Yes, this is
with
interesting.
The audience right now. This is pretty cool.
And there were like seven different variations of what ATIP even stood for. And to an investigator or a researcher like myself, and there's a lot of other people out there, if you're looking into something, you need to have the name right. Because if you don't have the name right, how are you going to find anything?
Right. Because when you submit a Freedom of Information Act request, you have to be specific with the government what you're asking for. So if you requested for the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, they could come back and say, hey, that doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think that right there is extremely fascinating. That little tidbit of information.
Shadiest thing ever.
That is The Basement Office, is the series from the New York Post. And the gentleman is doing it. It's like he's really skeptical of certain things. And like, I don't think, I don't think it's a bad idea to investigate Skinwalker Ranch at all, and he kind of goofs on the idea that it might be werewolves and different things. But this point of ATIP having 7 different wordings, switching aerial with aviation and all these things, it just makes the whole thing so cloudy and murky.
But that's our government.
And, it's like, what is going on? Right. So then you got Lou out there and he's selling, all this kind of information. And I got the knowledge, but I can't tell you everything. And then you see them, before Congress, and they show 2 videos. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen the Green Triangle video before. It has been debunked. I mean, there are good explanations for that being bokeh, an effect that happens from within a camera, within the aperture. Aperture. I'm saying that properly.
Aperture.
It can create those triangles, and like people were able to replicate this like a year ago on YouTube and stuff. Kind of explains it, but that's what they bring up when there's way better video. And then they showed a new one. That could be a balloon. It's hard to tell.
The new one, the one that goes by wicked fast in the congressional hearing.
All right. Some of the debunks I've seen online about this one is just that it's a Mylar balloon, a pilot in a jet going by it, and he's moving his phone
really fast.
And it creates the illusion, like an optical illusion of this Mylar balloon that's just hanging in the sky, whipping by his jet. But when you stop it and look at it, it does kind of look like a Mylar balloon. So, like, I don't know. I'm not saying it is. I don't know. I wasn't there. But it's sort of like debunkable evidence. Why are they doing this? Why do you think this is going on?
Reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt. Our government does not want to have egg on its face. So it has to be some other agency, other department. It can't be, the pure and innocent Senate or congressman. So they have to have a level, an area, a gray area for reasonable doubt. So they can say, well, we didn't know that, or we weren't head of that department, or we were not in that department, but we gave money to that department. But that's, because all the money goes back to Congress or the Senate, and then they appropriate the funding. So the Senate's hands are a little dirty on this. But the point being is that Colonel Corso was in a department and wrote a book about the day after Roswell, and his department officially did not exist. Okay. And then he took parts of stuff and took it to Bell Labs, and he took it to Westinghouse. He took it to a couple of other bases, and they just dispersed it. Here's another thing. Here's another thing. The transistor by itself, was created by a corporation that does not exist. It was the EIT Corporation or EIC Corporation or something like that, and it was like Extraterrestrial Technology Corporation. I mean, that was the idea. And they said that Colonel Corso said that these transistors were not made by us, but he took them to Bell Labs, or he took them to Westinghouse. They reverse engineered it, and then here's where the whole thing comes apart. Every part that the military has is given a serial number. Okay, so if it falls out of the sky, if it's a Russian, Soviet, Saudi Arabian, Syrian, Pleiadian, Orion, whatever falls out of the sky, they tag it with a number. It's just an identification number. It's a serial number. Bingo, the end. Okay.
I've heard of this, yes.
Then they go to Bell Labs and they go, hey, our plucky little scientists out at Area 51 or S4 have been working on this. Can you reverse engineer this or make this a little bit better and tell us really what it does? And they will turn right around and go, oh, yeah, sure. So Bell Labs sits down Westinghouse sits down and they start reverse engineering this stuff. Okay. The Pentagon gives out funding for this. Okay. And the Pentagon's budget is in the billions of dollars. And there's black holes, there's black projects where this money will go and will never be seen again. And we will never know what it is for. You know, it could be for spy satellites, could be for the next generation particle beam weapons. It could be for whatever we want it to be. Okay, whatever the Pentagon wants it to be. And they will dump money into these funds. Okay, so they create these little acronym departments to go out and say, hey, you know, we dropped off a project over at such and such university. Put on some dress uniforms and go over there and find out, you know, get on their progress, because we don't want to do this over the internet and we don't want to do it over the phone. So they pick up a briefcase or whatever, and they end up in dress uniforms over at the next Bell Labs or university. And they say, oh yeah, remember that project we dropped off a couple of years ago and we gave you like $10 million to work on it? You know, kind of give us an update. And they update them. Well, these two guys are from a department that we'll never find. We'll never even know because they're in research and development, you see. And these guys are just idiots. They're not physicists. Right. They're just colonels or captains or whatever. And they just go over and they go, okay, you know. And then they come back to the Pentagon. They go back to the Pentagon and they'll say something like, oh, yeah, they're working on it. They know what it does. Here's what it does. Here's the specs, you know, blah, blah, blah. And they go, okay, great. We'll take this information. We'll run out to S4 or a couple of other Los Alamos or, you know, whatever.
Yeah, $10 billion later.
Yeah. Oh, not even. No, this could be 20. This could be 40 or 50 or $60 million later. They go to so many different universities today, and they will drop money to work on one thing. So if I give a university $10 million and tells them they got 5 years to work on this project, that's $2 million a year. That goes into somebody's bank account. And all they do is reverse engineer whatever they gave them. And then they say, oh, well, we can use this in XYZ project. Okay. So the whole thing boils down to where does this part come from? Why does it have the military number on it? And what department really is over that project? And it's really it's like the old SSR or OSI. They're doing stuff all over the planet. Okay. All over. And everybody's hands are dirty. I'm just going to say this. I don't care if it's Joshua Ward or whoever's, you know, Freedom of Information Act goes underneath of it. Everybody's hands are dirty because why? The senators appropriate the money. The Pentagon gets the product, whatever it is. They send it to labs, which they also then pay. Then the labs take it to other universities, which then they pay, and it goes on and on and on. So when Lou Elizondo comes in and says, oh, I think we have exotic materials. Like, Lou, yeah, sure. Corso said that. And Roswell. We had that in Cape Girardeau, you know, in 45. The Nazis had it in 39. Okay, right. So don't come to me and tell me, you know, Dr. Lynch here, that you think, you know, something. No, you are like Goebbels. You are a disinformation officer, and you're going to tell me, you're going to tell me everything I don't want to know. Because why? That is not his job. His paid job was to take real information, real stuff, and twist it so it sounds like nothing. Oh yeah, that's nothing. Yeah, that's nothing. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Little Martians are not going to come down and abduct you. You know, we got all their stuff. We got all their tech. We know what's going on. No, you don't know what's going on, Lou, because you haven't handled those materials. Bob Lazar sit there at S4 and handle those materials.
Exactly.
Okay. Bill Uhouse worked at S4, putting in underground railroads at high-speed railroads and talked to J-Rod. And J-Rod was a gray that was left behind. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If Lou Elizondo wanted to come out
And
if Lou,
it's disingenuous.
if Lou wanted to come out with a stack of materials, but no, he'll lose his pension. He'll lose his retirement. He'll lose his stars from the Academy and his book deals. He'll probably lose that. And his new movie deal, he'll probably lose that. But he signed NDAs. When you go to the Italian government and tell them straight to their face, I would never do this. I would never do this at all. Straight to their face. Oh, I can't give you any information of what the U.S. because I'm under a non-disclosure agreement. Well, you're just making us look like a joke, man.
Isn't it convenient,
the friendship case.
He's the mouthpiece, and it's right, exactly.
Yeah.
Non-deniable denials. That gray area. We're not, we just gave them money. We didn't know what they did with it. It's like, the senator's great excuse. Yeah. Oh, well, later after the H-bomb was blown up at Bikini Island, we kind of figured out where that money went. It was one big bang.
The first thing we do,
you know what I'm saying?
The first thing we do is make a bomb.
Shut up, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna, eradicate so many millions of people. There's a lot of questions. Comments really out in the audience.
I'm sorry.
Shout out some of these folks. No, that's okay. Say hi, Steve, Joanne, Philip, Wyatt. Our friend Phil. He's taking a break from doing some evidence, but he put up a comment here I wanted to share. Congress doesn't want to ruin the money pouring in from the religious controllers. If they admit there are aliens, it would kind of ruin the thought of Christianity. I think there's some truth to that. Absolutely. And Anne-Marie Young, hello again, Anne-Marie. She says, I watched a video of the government asking everyone to report what you see, not be afraid to tell them. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sure.
Yep. No.
Greg Koss out there. How you doing, buddy?
Did you see Steve?
Yeah, and Steve Auckland.
Steve.
Absolutely.
I have to say that every time I see
him. Steve.
I like also what Philip Wyatt said as well. He said he wanted it made me laugh. I was giggling. Sorry what you guys were talking about Dramamine.
This one. Oh yeah. I wonder if I would need a Dramamine to ride in a spaceship.
No, I would.
You will. You will. Yeah. The astronaut. That's how Dramamine got invented, was because astronauts on the Apollo missions got seasick.
Really?
Is that right?
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I thought it was
so that Dramamine has a serial number somewhere.
Because the fluid in the inner ear starts bouncing around because there's no gravity. Yeah, and they all get seasick. Yeah. So you have
your audio's getting a little shaky.
Yeah, it does. Okay. Oh,
there it is. Oh, now you're back.
I'm sorry, I don't have my old phone. I apologize. I got so many ideas running through my head.
We know.
No, it's okay.
Girls like me.
It was SN number on the back of the Motorola. Well, you find out who gave who the money to build that cell phone, and the guy who owned a Motorola started MUFON.
I didn't know that either.
Okay.
Really?
Or did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
So I didn't know that.
Okay. If you go down to Huntsville, Alabama, where Von Braun's office used to be, it's still there. Yeah, Werner von Braun. If you go to that museum, the Space Museum there at Huntsville, Alabama, you will see in one of the displays, no lie, a Bigelow motel in the background.
Is that right?
I believe it.
And it'll say Bigelow Industries right there. Okay, that was in the late 70s. By the late 70s, he designed a space hotel, which got kind of whittled down to just be a section of a ship. Okay, so Bob Bigelow's been in this game for a little while, and he knows that we will continue to print more money to fulfill this need of being number one. Because those guys out there, the 16 of the cabal or the collective, are primo alpha. That we'll never be there. We'll never be, not unless they give it to us, and they're not going to give it to us. We don't have faster than warp. We don't have warp drive. Okay, we don't have faster than light drive. They won't give it to us. Okay, that's a fact. And Lou can sit there and talk about all the nuts and bolts that are in a machine. And I'll tell you, we're never going to get there. And I can tell you why, and I can tell you another reason why. But one is they're not going to give us permission. And two is it takes 2 engines to go to transwarp drive. It takes 2 engines. And anything that has ever fallen out of the sky that we've ever picked up only has one engine in it. So we missed that little thing. But believe you me, we are on 14 different planets besides Earth. And we are being shuttled from Earth out to these planets to build motels, zingers, and everything else for the 16 in the collective. So,
well, let's talk about that. The collective. Okay, so I'm not real familiar with that term.
Okay. Let me just back up. Okay.
All right.
Your government, United States of America, my government, worships aliens, and if you're a Christian, you're worshiping aliens too. Okay, and I can prove it. This is a $1 bill. Let me see if I can get it right. $1 bill. On the back of that dollar bill, I'm getting a little closer, is a pyramid. It's a pyramid. See that pyramid?
Mm-hmm.
That pyramid was found in South America, and it is a device to talk to extraterrestrials. Now, I just sent you a bunch of military badges.
Oh, yeah. I want to share some of these pictures that you sent me because they're pretty interesting.
That have that same pyramid on it. This is not the Pyramid of Giza. This is a communication pyramid that on the top, instead of the all-seeing eye, would be a light. It would light up, and it would actually talk from that. And the quote would be, "We see all." Okay, well, on the back of the dollar bill around that pyramid is chaos, new order. From chaos comes order. So the whole idea is that your government is worshiping space aliens. I don't care if they call them the Freemasons. I don't care if they call them the Illuminati, which they ain't so bright. And I don't care if they call them whatever they want to call them. They're worshiping space aliens, and they want to be in atonement to the space aliens. If not, that would not be on our money. But okay, so a space alien lands, and what are you going to do is pull out that dollar and say, "Are we friends? You know, we're friends because we're using your communication device." Okay, so don't tell me, Senator Smith from wherever, you don't know anything about aliens, is because it's all over our money. And any denomination has a marker on it to make sure that it reads that space aliens can see it. There's a strip in most money now. It's a magnesium strip that runs through the dollar. You can hold it up to the light. Mm-hmm. You can't see it to the dollar. They don't do it on the dollar, but on other currencies, they hold it up to the light. So that when you go through a scanner device at the airport or under a certain type of satellite, they can know how much money you have in your pocket by those magnesium strips.
Interesting. And interesting they would track it that way. A couple of comments out here. Greg Goss says, what I need to know is why my Cheerios are smaller.
How did I miss
That's a good
that?
question. Yeah, things do get smaller over time. I'm telling you.
They're not supposed to be
food items
because they're a choking hazard. So that's why cereal is a certain size. So the little kids can't choke on it.
There you go. There's a legit
if they make it smaller because of choking hazard, and the FDA has getting back involved, and they have to find out what's going on. But that's why Lucky Charms is the size they are, and that, they can be made of cereal or cardboard or paper or whatever, as long as they're a certain size, so you don't choke on them. Now they changed all this a few years ago, and M&M's come out with a smaller sized M&M, and they were in a tube, and the kids would just chuck them. And that is like the worst thing in the world because it becomes a choking hazard. Yeah.
Makes sense. Phil says, can we send the Kardashians to another planet?
I said, yes, please.
Yes,
I think they are from another planet, and they've just been deposited here because we're like the junkyard of the cosmos.
Say, are we being punished? That's awful.
Yeah, we are being punished. I think that, someone put on Facebook the other day, Kardashians have been on for 20 years and they had never seen an episode. I'm that one. I'm that other person. I don't know anything about their show. I never watched their show.
Never watched it.
You know, I never.
No, same.
I've
Same.
known now when Dr. Lear was taking parts out of people's ankles, tracking devices, you know, metallic meteorites out of people's ankles and feet.
Right.
He said, "Why is everyone watching the Kardashians when this?" Because he holds it in his hand. This is what should be on the nightly news.
Right. I agree.
Well,
I agree.
Because our government wants to cover it all up.
Distractions, right? They keep the distractions going, so we don't pay attention to the matrix that we're living in.
That's right. That's right.
Nathaniel Gillis, our buddy Nathaniel says,
Hey.
Lynch from Legend. What's going on, buddy? And he says, yep, the implants were almost alive in a way.
Oh, yeah, they are. They're not sentient, but they work off of our nervous system. So if we have an adrenaline rush or a neurologic spasm, they will react to that as well because they're connected into our neurological pathways.
Right.
That's what gives them their energy to transmit and also their energy to monitor what's going on with the body. So if we take too much toxins, you know, too much whatever, then it will react. Or if we take too much lead or any other toxic material, that is the sad part about it. But even the aliens wonder why, or the extraterrestrials wonder why we're killing ourselves, and it's all because of a ploy. It's a ploy to make some kind of money, which still has the symbol of the pyramid and the all-seeing eye on it. I have no idea what, you know. That's why, that's why there's always this phobia about making too much money or becoming too wealthy or whatever. And it's like Putin. He's like one of the richest men in the world, and he doesn't know when to say no. He just can't stop.
Never enough.
It's never enough. That's right.
It's never enough. Philip
Never
says
enough.
he's going to put his money in a Faraday bag, and
There you
Kristen's
go,
going to show
Philip.
you the bag. We were using our Faraday bag last night with Greg Koss
It's the
doing
perfect size for money.
doing some paranormal experiments with the Estes method.
Okay.
That was
Okay.
pretty cool. On
What
Shabbat.
you need to do with that is to put all your batteries, lead acid or rechargeable lithium, in one of those bags and wrap it in aluminum foil. And so the entities can't draw the power out of it.
Oh yeah, pretty good idea to maybe
Yeah.
try that on investigations if you find that your batteries are getting drained often.
Oh yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we should do that and try it. We will.
And he also
Exactly.
commented, "Do the impact? Geez,
Plants
after
impact
11,
our
always
Gland.
goes to hell. Do the implants impact the pineal gland?"
No, they don't. Our pineal gland calcifies, and it becomes as hard as a rock. Okay, it's like a rock in the middle of your brain. Now mine is totally calcified, and to prove that, if you doubt me, go get an X-ray of your skull, and the light spot, the white spot in the head, in your forehead, will be your pineal gland because it calcifies. Okay, because
Right.
of all the junk that we eat and everything that we do.
The fluoride, they say. That's that, right? The
No,
fluoride,
actually, it's in the
aluminum.
it's fluoride, it's aluminum, it's calcium, and it all builds up in the pineal gland. And that is the first thing that prevents us from having psychic ability or influence. You know, psychic
Yeah,
influence. Yeah.
That's something people.
We were
talk about.
talking just about the Akashic Records to
Yes.
this other gentleman. And yeah, when you're younger, you can access all that easier. You can have dreams that come true. You can have all that. But the time you hit about 20, then it all changes because you start to calcify that area of the brain.
I say
I
that
mean-
about astral projection often. Like I was really good at it in middle
Yeah.
school,
Mhm.
and now it's really hard to bring it on to
Right.
to create one. I
Ask
might
your-
have a lucid dream where I happen to wake up in a dream, but to say, all right, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to astral project, it's really difficult. But I used to be able to do this stuff much easier.
Yeah, no, it's not hormones as much as you would think it is. It is hormonal as well. It has a lot to do with your, guys run around and they say stuff like you have to be AB negative to have relationships with extraterrestrials. You have to, be all this and that. And it's like, no, you don't. What it is that
Is
you
that
have,
true?
what,
For-
our third eye?
No,
Oh.
AB negative. Why'd you say that?
Yeah,
Was
that was the old ways. In the old days,
that right?
yes.
AB negative.
But
What the hell?
but today it's not. It's not. But because
You're
why? Because AB negative came from a group of Pleiadians that landed on the planet 16,000 plus years ago, plus the Orions, and they had a negative blood type, and so their progenitors, their descendants. Their descendants would be AB negative or negative, have a negative blood type. And this is what we call the Norwegian, Scandinavian, Austrian, German blood type. This is what Adolf Hitler was trying to prove was this Aryan race. Well, he couldn't prove it because those people had already melted into the common society of the day. So there was no pure blood. It was just negative blood. And they didn't understand
Just all the negative.
the negative, right? At
Like
the time.
O negative, because
Right.
Anne Marie said.
Yeah, they didn't know anything about that. And they didn't know anything really too much about genetics, but they had an idea, they had a clue about genetics because they had done it with flowers and plants and things like this. But the human body was so complex at that time, they couldn't get their minds wrapped around it. And that's why a lot of people, I'm just going to point my finger at Lou because he's in the spotlight, say, oh, this UFO subject is so complex, you'll never get your head wrapped around it. The abduction scenario is so complex, you'll never get your head wrapped around it. It's like BS, man. We've got it wrapped around. It's just the problem is that we don't understand. They have to learn to accept it. And then that's where it comes to an end. So you can sign all the NDAs you want, but when it comes down to the individual has got to learn to accept it, that we're in a bigger community where this is not our planet and we are temporary, to say the least, and that's what this whole thing is about. This whole thing is about conscious, pushing your consciousness way out there to touch another civilization, to touch another star, to touch another planet. I mean, Elon Musk, I'm sorry we're getting off. I just want to make this one last point.
No, it's great. Go with this. This is very interesting.
Elon Musk wants to go to Mars because he knows that the Earth is going to be overpolluted, overpopulated, and not be able to have sustainable life. And it's going to heat up and virtually die. And he wants to get to Mars. Well, he's not been given permission to go to Mars. We've barely gotten permission to be in the International Space Station. We'll have to get permission again to go to the moon because it's not our moon. And to go to Mars would be it'd be like pulling teeth. It'd be like signing the Emancipation Proclamation and the Constitution all the same day. It'd be like impossible. So if they don't give him, if the 16 don't give him permission to go to Mars, he's not going to go to Mars. There's just no one's going to go to Mars. They'll blow it up on the tarmac. They'll blow it up on the launch pad. They don't
talk about that. The 16 collective, like that's a term that's a little new for me. Who are the 16? What do we know about them?
We know that they've been around a long time, hundreds, a million years. Let's just say a million years, just for for just comment. Let's say a million
Drop
years.
in the bucket of the history of the Earth, but yes,
correct. Drop in the bucket. Now we've only been around for off and on, off and on.
We're what we know, right?
We've been around for about 200,000 plus years, and then that's it, and our fossil record goes back to where we have found implements, hammers, iron pots, vessels, iron vessels, footprints, dinosaur tracks, all existing at the same time in the same strata of Earth. And that was us. We were there. 200,000 years ago, we were upright, walking, 6 foot tall, muscular dudes running around killing dinosaurs for dinner. And we had high-end technology. the same high-end technology that's available today or present today in our everyday life, but it's been buried over thousands of years of amnesia. And Graham Hancock will talk to you
Yes,
a
he
lot
does.
about amnesia. And
I love
you've
Graham
got it.
Hancock. I have his books.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yep.
he's a
We
great
love-
guy. I've met him and we've talked a little bit
Is that
about
right?
the Ark of the Covenant. And I said, do you feel like the church in Axum is in danger? And he said, no. He says the president has put a military guard around the city. So if anyone breaks in and tries to get the Ark of the Covenant, the military is right there to stop them. And I thought, wow, that's taking this as pretty serious. And Graham said, yes, the whole country takes the Ark of the Covenant very serious. It's in their everyday, it's in their religion, it's in their discussions about morality and everything else. It comes from the Ark of the Covenant. So they have it. It's still there. And as far as I know, they're not going to move it. And if they do move it, it will just probably be someplace underground and very, kept very safe. So
I think it's very possible, here's a comment, that there were civilizations that we just do not know about. When you talk about Graham Hancock and ancient civilizations that we're never going to know about, that, the continents could have been in a different place. We don't know. We don't know what's under the sea and how long fossils even last. I mean, our history
Like
is
you're
so
saying,
small, in the history of how old we know Earth to be. Nikki Cameron says, I believe I've seen a UFO. The only problem is I'm in Australia. There are about 6 people around Australia that had seen at the same time. Or long and short of that is they were told it was a USA fighter.
Of course.
Well, hey, talk to my friends at Pine Gap. They will tell you more than Area 51 could ever tell you. But Pine Gap is where all the Australian secrets are kept. And there's quite a population of non-humans in Pine Gap. And they rotate around. I've gotten photographs of a few extraterrestrials from Pine Gap. And they look a lot like our extraterrestrials, tall whites and Nordics and Pleiadians, to a certain extent. Okay, getting back to the 16. I'm sorry.
Thank you for your comment, Nikki. Appreciate it. And hi, Liz Milne from Scotland.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, nice. The 16 are basically governed over by the Pleiadian Council. The Pleiadian Council has 150 members, and these are notoriously long-lived human beings or beings that look like us, humanoid, and they're incredibly psychic. And how you get into the council is becoming as psychic as possible. You move up. And the more psychic you are, the more empathy, not entropy, but empathy you have, the higher you go as an official. Now, our senators are cold-blooded cold-blooded reptilians compared to the Pleiadian Council, okay? The Pleiadian Council is like your grandmother. It just cares so much and loves you so much that they're going to do everything in their power to protect you. And our solar system is under their watch. Nothing comes into the atmosphere of Earth. Nothing leaves the atmosphere of Earth without the Pleiadian Council signing off on it. And that is you might say the top of the rung, top of the rung. Then after that, we have the Orions, the Sirians, we have a couple of other races. The tall whites are there, and the Andromedans are there. And we do have one race that kind of looks reptilian, but they're not. They're kind of a tall gray, but they're not harmful. They're not of the bad grays that have been doing all this other stuff in the background. So out of the 16, they control this solar system. Our solar system is called SOL. I don't know why, but I think it rings true. And that they monitor everything in the solar system. Every mineral that's mined, every ship that flies. There's not an airplane in this country on this planet that they don't monitor as it takes off and as it lands. There's no aircraft, no anything. Even during your transponders off, they still monitor you and they still can follow you. Even military craft. Man, it gets so deep. Lou Elizondo to me is worthless. He's not even worth the time of the day. Chris Mullen, he's not going to fall on his sword. So, it's going to be guys like me and a few other guys that are going to come out.
What about Hal Puthoff?
Hal Puthoff.
Yes, please.
Uh,
What do you think about him?
He was involved in what ATIP was really.
yeah,
he's involved in a lot of things. He was he ran a Stargate program for the military.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. Those guys are okay. And again, that was $20 million. A couple of senators sat down and said, "Here you go do what you can." And where did that $20 million go? Went right into Berkeley. I mean, look at the guys at Berkeley. I mean, those guys started the Stargate program. Ingo Swann and a handful of others. Mr. I'm going to call him Pierce. He was a retired police officer. I think that Pierce was his last name.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I'm a fan of Ingo Swann. We are.
Yeah. And I've
brilliant.
And I've researched I've researched all that, and that's nothing there is impossible. It's getting a bunch of old guys. I mean, I'm not, when they were doing it, I was pretty young. You know what I'm saying? So it was like you get a bunch of old guys sitting around with a Christian background, and then they tell you to shutter all that so that you can go anywhere you want to go. Open your mind. And we're not talking like LSD or, Mary Jane or whatever was going on back in the late 70s. You know what I'm saying? Methamphetamine, all that was legal at the time.
Sure.
And so
it's funny. We've circled right back to that. There are a lot of programs now that are talking about, using hallucinogens like mushrooms in particular to initiate contact with aliens, to initiate out-of-body experiences.
Stephen Greer goes off into these little circles, these little campfire circles, and they all get meditative states, and they all say, "Come down and visit us," and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, you're not a representative
of a mummy.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say. My whole thing with Stephen Greer, I got like a bone to pick with him. Like I got all into Atacama Mummy years ago, and then Gary Nolan like examined the thing and found out it was human. It was like a 6-year-old child that was deformed.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed.
We can't even look at him.
I'm done.
Nope.
I'm done.
No CE5 for me.
Yeah. But you go through East, okay. Let's get a little bit further down the road. Okay. Now the 16, understand the human lifespan is like a tsetse fly. It is here today, gone tomorrow. Okay. But the humans, as mentally and genetically deficient as we are, now everybody else, the 16 have like 30,000, 40,000, 60,000 base pairs in their DNA. We have 20,000. I have octopi in the ocean that has more DNA than I do. And it can camouflage itself. It can think, it can speak, it can talk, just not to me. But, there are products on this, there are organisms on this planet that did not derive from here. They were brought here.
I've heard this. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a lot of them. The hummingbird is one. An octopi is another one. And if you check the DNA,
jellyfish, maybe?
Yeah, certain jellyfish, the squid, some of them don't belong here. They never did belong here. They have no genetic root in our genetic tree. So they're brought here in order to populate, and then they take a few of those and they transplant them to another planet. And come to find out, on some planets, there are no banana trees, and there's no coffee trees or chocolate trees. And so they've taken those off of our planet and put them on other planets on their ships so they can have coffee and chocolate.
Well, I'm not going to those planets.
And man, it's like
no
it's like, do you guys have Starbucks or whatever? And he goes like, no, but we have this espresso maker, man. And so you don't want to whacked out Pleiadian on coffee, especially chocolate, because they're already dramatic and they're dramatic enough. You know what I'm saying? They're pretty dramatic. So all I'm saying is, To the Stars Academy is too little, too late. dead end street, and you will get more from a FOIA request. But here's the key. Here's the kicker. You've got to get in and talk to somebody who's been in those departments in order to say, I want a FOIA request for that blank department. And then
right. You got to have the
then
details. That was kind of
right.
the point that was being made in that portion of the video I played. You know, if you don't get the name wrong, and hence they have all these different words for the same acronym,
Right.
which is only a nickname of the actual department, you're not going to get your FOIA request, your Freedom of Information Act.
Right. In the old days, there were about 10 guys walking around the Pentagon, and they knew everything. They knew where all the skeletons were buried, all the bodies were buried. They knew where all the parts were put. There were 10 guys. Colonel Corso was one of them. There was probably about 9 other guys that we'll never know about. I think who was the other guy? Who was the other?
Says, what about Mary Jane plants and interstellar
yeah.
travel? Well, I think it might go hand in hand.
Decided to keep my
Okay. The best marijuana ever grown is in a square acre in Arkansas, maintained by the U.S. military, by the U.S. Army.
I'm glad you didn't say in my bedroom closet.
I didn't know. But no, the best marijuana ever grown, and they sit there and they would extrapolate it and grow better and better.
Sure.
Is by the U.S. Army. And so when Colorado and they say, oh, it's all the hippie stuff, it's all hippie stuff. No, our military has had it since they brought it back from Vietnam in the 60s. I mean, they were growing it and they were disseminating it. I mean, they were, I'm telling you. I mean,
I have no doubt they had that down.
They had it all. They had LSD. They had purchased
the
patent to LSD, and then they were making it. You know what I'm saying? They wanted every advantage,
giving people very large doses of it.
Yeah, they were giving
watching their reactions.
Yeah,
the Nazis had methamphetamine. They had crystal.
Yeah,
they were
jacked up Nazis.
Yeah, and Hitler was an abuser. I mean, Hitler was just a meth addict. When W. Bush was in president, they called it. We're going to give him Mr. Happy. Mr. Happy. To W. Bush, so he would be like all perky and everything's going to be okay. No, they were giving him some heavy duty stuff, man. I mean, I'm just saying it's been around for a long time, and our military has had first pick at everything. Okay, so anyway, I was talking to a guy, and I don't need a FOIA request for the people I talk to. But anyway, I talked to a guy and he goes, oh yeah, we got a new train system. And I said, where does it go? He goes from Los Alamos to S4 or Area 51 underground. And I go, okay, great. Well, about 10 years later, he comes out and he goes, we got a new underground train system. And I said, really, where's it go? And he goes from Los Angeles to S4. And then you can get on another train and go to Los Alamos, go to Alamogordo, go anywhere you want underground. And then they were making this all the way to Chicago. And I said, oh, well, have they finished that route to Chicago? And he goes, yeah, they're getting ready to. So it's like, okay, Lou or Chris, where you at? Tell us, do we have an underground road system that can take people anywhere that you want to go? I mean, some of this stuff doesn't jive, because if they don't know, then they were never supposed to know. And that's what the whole thing is. FBI, CIA. Your pay grade is where your pay grade. Okay, your pay grade. If your pay grade's not up to here, or your clearance is not up to here, you don't get in. You don't walk in that door. And that's why I'm sitting there saying, well, okay, you're this disinformation officer. So what did they do? They told you what to disinform.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
ISIS is winning. No, you can't publish that. ISIS is losing. Okay. So Lou goes out and publishes ISIS is losing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
In World War in Korea, and at the end of World War II, there's a girl named Tokyo Rose. It wasn't the same woman in both wars, but they call her Tokyo Rose, but she'd be on the radio and tell American soldiers in English that their wives are cheating on them and put all this stuff in their head, so they
Sure.
couldn't perform in the
Stress them
battlefield.
out.
Yeah, stress
Mhm.
them out, and they thought, oh man, she's a terrorist. She's she's horrible. If you ever catch Tokyo Rose, we're gonna kill her. Because she's just that lethal. She's just that lethal to our American soldiers. Well, Lou's walking around free. I don't get it. He's just as dangerous to the
Right.
enemy as anybody, and he's just walking around. So
It's so much
I'm sitting there going,
disinformation and hinting about things, and what's the deal, and then you have the To the Stars Academy, right? And then they released some footage. Lou was part of that as well with Tom DeLonge.
He's the one that leaked it to Tom DeLonge.
Yeah, go ahead, get Tom DeLonge. I can take a drink of water here.
No,
Sure.
he's the one who gave it to Tom DeLonge.
Right.
And Tom DeLonge.
Blink 182,
Mhm.
famous
I really
board.
like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Tom DeLonge sitting back, patting himself on the back with him and Lou, and they're sitting back going, look, the Senate just had a hearing. They just talked about this, so it must be real. They can't hide it anymore. And it's like, if you'd watched that hearing, nothing was resolved.
Nope.
Nothing was solved.
Last hearing they had was 1966, and nothing was resolved then either. So
Right. I noticed right away, like one of the hot
shadow
topics
projects started going on.
was they asked, somebody from Congress asked them about USOs, about them going
yeah.
underwater. And immediately the response was, we can talk about that in a closed session.
Exactly.
And I thought that was interesting because we've shared a video here, and I know a lot of people have seen it from Puerto Rico, and I forget what year it is. I mean, you actually see the UAP go underwater, come back out, goes underwater like 2 times, and it is screwing. It's moving really fast, and then splits into 2. And they don't play that one enough. They're showing balloons.
That's
and
the one that
camera anomalies.
Okay.
I find this fascinating because there is some good footage, right? The Nimitz footage. Pretty good.
If you get the entire footage of the Tic Tac, you get all of it. Okay. Where do you think those things went? There were 80 Tic Tac ships over the USS, over that training operation. There were 80 ships. They all came from outer space. They all came down to the surface of the ocean. They just went underwater. They just went off radar.
Barely any splash. They just
exactly. Right. So you have radar tapes. You have radar tapes of 80 Tic Tacs flying through our atmosphere over Catalina Island in Southern California, Baja California, and we don't even talk about it. Senate doesn't have a hearing. Did this breach national security? Where's Homeland?
right?
Where's Space Force?
Right.
It makes no sense. So we can have foreign extraterrestrial objects, and these guys are scratching their head going, is it ours or is it theirs?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, no, it's none of ours earthly devices. This is a modification upgrade, of their old ships. And I sent you a couple of pages of the old ships.
We're going to share those in a moment. I just think it's really interesting that you have the government agency, we'll call it ATIP or whatever that stands for. And then you have the To the Stars Academy, which is like this privately funded entity with some people that people might like the guy from Blink 182, stuff like that. Now we're seeing it transition into a new team, and I forget the acronym for the new one. They just established a new, ASWA. I forget. And you also see the private entity, which is going to be like Avi Loeb, the Galileo project, they're calling it.
Yeah.
They have Avi Loeb from Harvard University, very credible. But you also got Lou kind of involved in some of that, and some people like Gary Nolan. So and that's privately funded. And they're all kind of showing the same kind of data. I know Avi wants to go check out an asteroid that fell into the Pacific. I think South Pacific. That he's pretty convinced, or that's what he's saying, is a UFO or something from out of our solar system, an artifact that was tracked by the Space Force. But let's get to some of those pictures. Like a little while ago, you sent us some sun pictures as well.
Yes.
And I want to show those because those are really interesting. And I'm going to tell you something. Before the show, I went on and I clicked the links themselves to bring up those links as separate tabs to share.
Yep.
And they're gone.
They're gone. Yeah.
All those pictures have already been
Yes.
pulled from NASA. And these are NASA pictures.
I'm sorry. I should have.
No,
emailed
that's
those to
okay.
you.
I've got them in our messenger and I'm going to share them.
It's
But
NASA.
the links themselves don't work anymore. And they were working.
Oh,
They absolutely worked at first
That's
because
shady, too.
I went to the page, I was exploring the page one day. Now
Yeah,
they're already been pulled. They're gone.
So let me just put it this way. Okay, let me just put it this way. You go on a picnic and you go out and it's a beautiful day and the sun is out and you've got some cold ones on the ice and you got a couple of steaks in the barbecue and you just got your potato salad just right and everything just looks great and tastes great and lay down your blanket and you sit there and you're just having a feast. And then these ants come along and you go, oh man, those ants. So I'm just going to shoo them away. Okay. We are the ants.
Exactly.
Think of it that way. Think of it just like that.
Chris always
Okay.
says that.
Let's go. Let's talk some.
We're definitely the ants.
Yes.
All right. Let me see if I can share the right tab here. And we can jump around to a couple of the pictures. You sent me some interesting stuff. So
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about this, I just want to say you had a guest about the Akashic Records.
Yes.
How that is actually kind of done is that your memories in your frontal lobes, that's why they're so important, are being pulled right out. Every second of your life, the energy is pulled right out and being recorded into the records. And that is how those records compile in a holographic form. And so you can go to any lifetime at any time and see it all in 3D holographic, be able to walk around a memory. You'll do that in your near-death experience. You'll see your past life. You go through a past life experience and be holographic.
Talk to a lot
And
of
that
entities.
is all coming right out of your frontal lobes. Everything's coming right out of your frontal lobes and being recorded. So that's just something to think about. That's how the Akashic Records.
So you're saying it's like a technological thing rather than consciousness itself.
No, it's all based in consciousness. It's your consciousness transmitting the information, and it will record it in the cloud. And when people use the cloud, that is the afterlife. The cloud is the afterlife. So everything is being recorded, memorized, stored in that afterlife. So that is the cloud. Now, some people say the Akashic Records is actually a building that they actually can go to. And then others say, no, it's just some place. It's just something I can pull down into my head. So even when you're on the other
It's like a point of visualization.
Exactly.
right, it's
Yeah.
point of visualization. So if you think it's a library, then it becomes a library. If you think it's just energy
Right. To you.
ambient energy, then that's it. But you can see all your past lives, all your future lives, all at the same time, anytime that you want to do it. So your life, your body just disappears, but your life does not stop. It is infinite at the speed of light. You think about that for a second. Anyway, go ahead. Okay,
Yes.
we got
No
some pictures.
problem. Steve says, I think
Show and
that's
tell.
compelling data, but they have no real idea what's going on. They know less than we think. And I think that just depends on the level you are. When you said that about the clearance, I would have to agree.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah,
you know,
the president
I think
doesn't
somewhere
have-
in the zone.
The president doesn't have high enough clearance.
We've heard that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so-
So in this picture, this is one of the NASA pictures, right? And this is our
Yeah.
sun. This picture has been removed from NASA, but there are similar ones there. If you go to their website, and I can give you that web address to look at these type of sun pictures, but you've got some things circled here, some anomalies, and they are unusual. I don't know how well this is showing. Oh, I lost it.
There it
Shoot.
goes. Okay.
Well, those anomalies
Go
are
back.
the size of the Earth. You see?
Yeah, they would be huge. They would
Yeah.
be absolutely enormous.
If you put our Earth next to that sun, that would be about the size they would be, if not a little smaller. So it takes 1,000 years to build one of those ships, and they're galaxy class now. So, God, there's so many people out there right now saying, "Oh, you can't have transwarp drive without breaking Einstein's rules." These guys don't break any of Einstein's rules, and they have faster than light travel. They have transwarp drive. They don't have hyperdrive. They have transwarp drive.
Right.
So you're going 50 light years a second. You're traveling 350 light years in 50 minutes. That's going from here, from our Earth and our sun to the Pleiades star cluster in less than an hour. So if your lifespan is 1,000 years old and you can travel around the galaxy like an afternoon drive, then man, you got it all. You've got immortality. You got a ship that can do that, and you can mine and go and do whatever you want wherever you want to. You just have that tech. Phil Schneider said that we were 800 years, 500 years or 800 years behind the highest level of science in America. Okay. We're the average person is 500 to 600 years, maybe 800 years behind the science in America. Well, if that's the case, then we're about 100,000 years behind the 16 of the collective, because they're jumping from star to star. They're jumping from galaxy to galaxy. And, and we can't even get there yet. We don't even have we can't stop fighting over wheat and rice and dirt to even put our brains to that level.
Yep.
Right.
So
right.
true.
I totally agree. All right. I'm going to share some of these other pictures as well.
And I'll tell you what, any official from our government that comes out and says, "I'm telling you the truth," they're lying. They're lying their ass off.
Yeah,
because
we don't trust any government.
No. Okay, here we go. You might be able to see
these are pretty interesting. This appear to be some older UFO photographs.
Yeah, these were sent to me from a gentleman who had these. I think his grandfather had these, or his father had these, and he collected them at different UFO conferences. And is that the one no, it's the other page, but that's the one that has a ship on it, and you can see it very clearly. There's there's 9, 10, 12 photos there of a UFO very close to the ground inside of our atmosphere, and everyone just poo-hooed that. And that was back in the 50s.
Yeah. These are very saucer-like, except for this bottom row.
Yeah.
It takes on a more tubular and almost.
Well, that's another ship. Yeah, that's another ship.
Phallic.
It's a little phallic.
Phallic.
Kind of like a flying dick.
And that was that's not the forerunner to the that's not the ancestor of the Tic Tac. That is a whole different ship, and they discontinued that years ago. But what I'm saying is back in the 50s, there were people that actually took photographs of real extraterrestrial objects, and they were poo-hooed, and it was ranged as taboo. And so the good people just said, this is flights of fancy, when actually it wasn't. It was actually a reality. And that's the whole part. That's the whole part and parcel of the whole thing, is that it is a reality, not a fantasy, not flights of fancy. Now, this one, when I was a kid, my dad would take me down after school to my local barber, and he would give me a good haircut. He had these photos on his wall.
Really?
And he said, and he had a little sign above it that says, "Believe it or not." And every time I went and got a haircut, I'd walk in and I would look at that, and I would really scrutinize those. And he would never question me about it. I never thought about it. And then one day I went in there and it was gone, just totally gone. And I guess I was getting up a little bit older. I could talk to adults or whatever. And I said, weren't there some pictures up there? And he goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I just took them down. I got bored of them and took them down." And what was really strange is that these are the most clearest photos of a 3D object that looks like a little bit like the ship that got Betty and Barney Hill, that abducted Betty and Barney Hill. It's very close, very similar. And but if you see in the last photo, this guy is standing who took the photographs by his truck, and his truck is like a 1957, 58, somewhere through there.
Yeah, you can see it's quite old, and the car behind it is. Yeah.
So when Lou's saying, "Oh, I think we have some metamaterials, or we have some exotic materials," is like, "Yeah, Lou, where you been?"
Exactly.
The bottom left-hand one reminds me of the picture that Mulder has in his office.
I want to.
That's not the same one. That's not the same one.
No, but it reminds me of it.
Right.
Yeah. Now the one I have behind me is the one, because that's the beam ship from Billy Meyer's case, and the Billy Meyer's case is what they made the I Want to Believe poster
out of.
Yeah. From now even J. Allen Hynek. Okay, J. Allen Hynek was a brilliant kind of guy, but he turns right around and he has to lie his ass off. And he hates it, but he does. And then what he does, he goes totally converted. And in the early 70s, he starts his own NICAP. He starts his own organization to go out and investigate this stuff. Well, so you're telling me in one day it's swamp gas, and the other day it's something we should be afraid of?
Exactly.
Right.
So Hynek was like cutting the cheese, and when you're cutting it in half, but he wanted both pieces. He wanted to say, "Oh no, I'm an educated professor, and this is swamp gas." And then on the other side of it, he said, "Oh no, I'm an educated professor, and I think this is something we need to investigate." You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It makes absolutely no sense. The dichotomy, the good and evil, and it still runs rampant today. If you have been abducted as an abductee, if you've been abducted by extraterrestrials, okay, if they have done their job, they have erased it from your mind. So you may only remember 2 abductions, okay?
Right.
My point is, if you've been abducted 60 or 70 times, you're over it. You don't have any more post-traumatic stress. It's just,
I think a lot of it happens when we're in like that hypnagogic state, like just about in this, sleeping, just in that zone. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So
you will forget, because it'll be like a dream almost. You won't be sure.
Exactly. Yeah. You won't be sure. And that's the whole idea. It's a ploy to slip us in. So we doubt ourselves, our own memories, our own mindset. Wait. So let's just say, okay, you can be an abductee, and then they're going to take something from you. Okay. Blood, plasma, whatever, skin, whatever. Human. Okay. But then they can come back and say, "Oh, hey, gee whiz, we noticed in your last examination, you have a heart problem. Well, we're going to take some DNA from somebody else, Orion's probably, or Pleiadian, and they're going to inject it right into your heart." Okay. And then you instantly become Close Encounters of the Sixth Kind, where they are taking you and they're increasing your lifespan, you're changing your organs, and they're making you healthier. Okay. If you don't step in front of a truck, you could probably live another 100 years. So you take the lifespan of an average person, 80, 90 years old. Okay. Now we're pushing it out to 200. And all they need is the selective, pure DNA that your body's going to accept. And then you become Close Encounters of the Sixth Kind. And no one's even brought this up yet. It's like, there are people, and let me just say, there's an island off Puerto Rico, okay? And this is where all the superhumans are being built. And they're being built from the genes up, okay? Artificially inseminating the genes into women, or an incubation chamber, which is filled of plasma, which we got that from the extraterrestrials. And we're building super soldiers. By the time they're 16 years of age, they'll look like they're 30, and they'll have strength and muscles and height that a football player would envy. Okay. And that's going on now. Okay.
Yeah, you think that's the point of the hybridization program? To build
it wasn't the point. Is what we made it. That was not the point of the hybridization. We made that system. We did that because we wanted super soldiers. Okay, so you turn right around and go, okay, well, if the super soldiers ever failed, the general populace will have to carry the weight, the burden of society. So we're going to take the general populace, some guy who has an O positive or, B positive, blood, and we're going to make him live to be 200 years old because he's the general populace. Okay, remember this. And I don't understand why people forget this so much. In the movie, God, what was the movie? The Day the Earth Stood Still. In the old one, the black and white one.
Mm-hmm.
In The Day the Earth Stood Still, the extraterrestrial makes a speech at the end of the movie. Get off your nuclear weapons, get off your fake prescriptions, have peace and harmony, and it's all the age of Aquarius. Well, the thing is that no one even believed it or even trusted that. And so the extraterrestrials realized after that movie was made that they can't trust the government. They can't trust the United States government at all. So when they abducted people at the beginning, it was to say, save the earth, eat healthy, exercise. Because why? Everybody was smoking like chimneys. Everybody was eating red meat halfway raw. I mean, when my dad had a steak, it was almost raw, and he was smoked, 4 packs a day.
Sure.
See, but an abductee, all of a sudden they had pyramid power, and they were talking about chakras and ancient Eastern medicines, and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't read about that in high school. Where's all this knowledge coming from? So even today, there is self-help programs, and The Secret is one of those programs. The Secret, the other thing is to release, forgive everyone, release your hostility, release your anger, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this is all extraterrestrial directives, straight out. Because why? The government would not submit to these other ideas. Valiant Thor, commander at the time, Valiant Thor went to the Pentagon, talked to Richard Nixon and Dwight D. Eisenhower, gave him a book, which was later used in the Twilight Zone to serve man. But anyway, he gave him a book on how to become the supreme power of the planet. And Dwight D. Eisenhower and Richard Nixon says, no, we're not going to take that. We're number one right now. We're always going to be number one, so we don't have to worry about it. So Valiant said, screw these guys. This is the president of the United States. He said, screw these guys. I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to the people. And it comes out and finds out the people are superstitious. They're scared about everything. Commies. It's like, okay. So he goes to Howard Minger's potluck dinner. And he tells Howard, you gotta find peace. You gotta find Zen. You gotta look beyond what you think is there. Okay. And everybody, I don't care if you're talking about Jesus, Buddha, man, I don't care who you're talking about. They all say the same message. They're all saying the same. It's not a prophecy. It's a reality that has been masked by fear, which comes from our government.
Governments. And we want to say this kind of an international.
Whether it's Russia, whether it's Russia,
Scotland,
Russia,
this,
North Korea, whatever.
Control being, passed on, and people think, I'm free, I own this and that. Not so much.
Not really.
Not so much. It's all about the same across the board. And
it's like the War of the Worlds. Okay, when the movie The War of the Worlds, okay, what was it? A meteorite crashes on the planet, and everybody goes out there and goes, that looks interesting. And then a UFO comes out of it, spaceship comes out, starts vaporizing people. Okay.
Yeah,
something falls in the South
shaky
Pacific.
What do we do? Okay.
It's true.
First thing we do is go, is it an extraterrestrial ship? There's one. Yeah, you're sitting there going, it's in the Baltic Sea. So what are we supposed to be afraid of here?
You think the Baltic Sea
the ignorance of our government is the only thing we should be afraid of.
Right.
Sorry, you think the Baltic Sea anomaly is a UFO?
It certainly looks like one. I mean, it looks a lot like the Millennium Falcon.
5,000-year-old Pleiadian ship. Yeah.
Just so I can bring up a picture of that.
Right. It does.
And it
but
broke
I
up as it went into the
watched,
water.
I've watched
But
the.
if you,
It's actually supposed to be a like an ancient civilization, basically, 12,000 years old. Not. Yeah, Chris is bringing up the picture now. Not. It's not metallic. They said it's just an ancient civilization, and I forgot the name of the people. Is it the explorers? But they're doing documentaries of it, and I don't know. That's
Yeah, I think they're actually doing tours to the thing at this point. You can take a tour and go dive it. Let me just bring up a picture
crashed
so people
5,000
know what
years
we're
ago.
talking about.
It was probably from an older. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
it there. Baltic Sea
it's the
anomaly.
means.
You know,
because we always thought that too, and
And
I started
here's a funny
reading up on it, and I'm sorry, I
funny
started
thing.
reading up on it, and then
Putin.
I don't know if you can hear us because it's going.
I'm not sure. Michael, your audio's cutting in and out a little bit, just so you know. I don't think
Yeah, I know it could be the weather.
That's probably
Yeah,
what it is.
for that.
We
could be
understand
affecting
that.
your interwebs.
So that's what that
But
is.
that was found
Yeah.
by treasure hunters,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
they
Went to
actually
the Explorer.
have tours to it
Yeah.
now. Yeah, fascinating thing. I mean, look at that. You know, it certainly looks like a spacecraft, and especially in that particular picture. Very interesting.
Yeah. no,
Something else I wanted to
if
bring
you
up
s-
there.
If you see
Go ahead.
if you see this 3D scans of the ocean
Mhm.
floor right around that area, you'll see that this
Mhm.
thing was on the bottom. It skirted on the bottom for a very long time. And there was another object that was going the other way, as if they like maybe bumped into each other. But what my interest is that why wasn't it ever picked up by the other Pleiadians? Why did they just let it go? And that's interesting as well. So there are
Starting to lose them.
other wrecks like this. Bob Lazar
We're
said that
losing- There we go. Okay, we're really losing you there.
our UFOs
Oh, I think so.
that we have this for was from an archaeological dig. So that could have been
Yes.
5,000-6,000 years ago.
We've heard Bob Lazar
Kind of
say
froze
that.
on me. There you go.
Yeah,
You're
us
freezing
too.
a lot on us.
Yeah.
I
So
don't know how it's coming through on the stream.
no, you're freezing a little bit. I look okay, but you're freezing. A little bit.
We look okay on our side, but you're
Yeah.
freezing.
We'll do what we can here. But yeah, so when we went to Afghanistan, there was a big hubbub about finding another downed ship, UFO in Afghanistan. There was another one in Iraq as well that they claimed.
I don't doubt that at all about
No.
Iraq. You know,
You found a giant
Samaria
in Iraq.
being in that area and like, oh my God.
In Antarctica, which I'll bring this up.
Mhm.
In Antarctica, they have found ships and underground bases. Yeah. So informed to make a decision how we're going to digest this. But the whole thing is that they have attacked this threat, but that's only part of the thing is
check on my phone.
Just name it. You know, it's so done as much as
I'm just checking our stream real quick.
Hold on one second, Dr.
Actually, I
Michael
wanted to keep
Lynch.
talking 'cause- just want to see. Oh yeah, he's completely frozen.
Okay.
Yes, I think you have frozen, and the aliens
He
have gotten
dropped.
him.
We think he got abducted by the alien ship behind him.
The alien behind him. All right, he's popped back on. We're gonna bring him on. Hopefully, it's a little better.
If
I
it's
know
not, we might have to call it.
if you
Bring him on.
didn't hear him earlier, they're having a weather issue in his area, so we might be having some internet trouble. Let's see. How are you doing, Michael? And now you're
Doing
moving.
good.
You're frozen there for a little while.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you at all.
Suspended
Sorry.
animation. I
sorry.
think
That's
he's doing funny things behind you. That
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much out there. There's so much information. A person can spend his life going through all the back stuff. Now, the new stuff is, the new stuff is everything that we've screwed around with and messed up. So there is a movie out called Dimmed, or The Dimming. I think it's called The
Yes.
Dimming. And I studied that. I mean, I was on top of that 20 years ago. And now it's like every nation, every country is putting aluminum, mercury, junk in our atmosphere at above 19,500 feet. The EPA says the sky starts or ends at 19,500 feet. So if you fly above 19,500 feet, you can spray as much garbage, toxic waste as you want, because
That's
we've
awesome.
run out of places to burn it. We've run out of places to bury it. So now they're spraying it above us. And if you see the toxic levels of aluminum and what it does to people, like fluoride,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
also look at the toxic levels of lead, we are dumber now than we've ever been since the Neanderthals walking around. So America is being dumbed down, and
Yeah,
it
it
is
seems like it.
Absolutely.
It seems like it. And you see the
Yeah.
way, like, we don't put money into things like education as much as we should. And not to get political, but Betsy DeVos, really,
I knew you were going to say
I can't stand her. I can't stand the woman. I
stand her.
cannot believe she was.
she
in charge of
shouldn't
education.
have been there.
It's ludicrous.
The woman
Why that's,
owns 9
you know,
yachts.
we sat for that.
It's all
You know,
about the money.
yeah, absolutely money oriented. But no, we'll look for that movie. I think you sent me a link to it, actually.
Yeah, The Dimming. It was called the Dimming.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, but I had to go through
The Dimming. Yeah.
a gentleman's webpage to get it. But it's absolutely true, and it's been going on for 20 years. The original idea of this came from World War II, where the British spread it over a certain town in Ireland or Scotland. I forgot what it was. Anyway, it rained so much that it flooded the town, killed like 40 people and stuff like that. So these projects they knew about a long time ago. If they want to put out fires out at out west in Arizona and California, is just spray the clouds with dried ice, and it will rain and put out those fires. The government knows that they want those fires to burn because we have it. We have it. I mean, we're talking about
I think
baby.
we'd have that tech, if we can,
We have
go
the
to
tech.
Mars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we see that all the time.
we could put out some of those fires a little easier.
Yeah, without using so many chemicals.
You would think we
And
would have
PFAS.
a way.
We're talking about war powers for baby formula.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Well-
What about war powers to put out fires?
Exactly.
A lot of,
Makes no-
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there was a story before this all happened that there was some of the baby formula and food were contaminated. So they had to take
Yes.
them off the shelves. And then all of a sudden they got backlogged, and then everything started happening with
Had
transportation.
Supply chain issues,
Yes,
obviously.
with that.
Right.
And it's not.
It's like I ordered a summer body,
Oh, here
and
we
it is
go.
not going to arrive
I'm
by
never
summer.
going to hear the
I am
end of
hoping
this.
so. Maybe fall, winter, something like that. It's like, no, not arriving.
Self, Christopher.
Yeah,
I'm the
it is
woman
some-
here. I'm so
right. I know. We got some
now
badges
some of
you
these,
sent.
yeah,
These
on
are
some of these
interesting.
badges here, you will see that they are the same as the back of a $1 bill. Okay, because the pyramid and the eye at the top is what the government worships, because that is a device in order to talk to extraterrestrials. All right. Now the big center badge has the alien on it, and again, this is testing alien tech. There's another badge in there. I think it's the center badge, and it's where they're actually trying to fly alien tech. And that's what
And
that
these are
badge is
actual
for.
U.S. military
These-
mission badges
Are they
for
really?
anybody that is listening.
Wow.
And these
And you
these
get these through
badges
FOIA.
I see it, but
Yeah.
actually have aliens on them, or alien-like forms. Very
So
mysterious.
our government doesn't know anything about extraterrestrials. That's a joke.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
joke,
Yeah, it
man.
is.
I'd agree. Liz Milne's got a question for you. She
Okay.
asked, "Hi, Michael Lynch. Do you know about the Brown Mountain, and is that about the aliens? If you don't mind me asking, thank you."
Yes. Yeah. It is. Brown Mountain is a temporary alien refuge where they put when aliens come in, and at one time there were four different species trying to get to the Earth, and so when they come in as a refugee status, they're taken to Brown Mountain. They're taken to a couple of places up north. What was it? It was a place in Alaska. Mount Rainier's one. Mount Shasta's
Mount Shasta.
Shasta.
Yeah.
another.
Oh, we're losing your audio again, my friend.
They have underground bases there. Gap is one. Area 51 is another one. There's several out in the East Coast. There are underground bases, and like I said, they're built by us, but they're not maintained by us. And some of them are not built by us. They're just built. The extraterrestrials just build them. And there was a big thing about Phil Schneider, that he would have to call and say, "We've just ran into an underground base. Is it ours or is it theirs?" And they would look on their maps and say, "Oh, it's not ours. It must be theirs." And this is when he had the big shootout with some gray aliens.
I've heard about some of this. I remember the story going around about a guy who got shot. Remember
that is true.
Actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was working on a base, and they were working underground, and they encountered some grays, and it was a shootout. And supposedly he died.
Oh, there are several. Yeah, we've had these incursions before. Several. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
There was a guy. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of Marines have died this way. And the excuse is it was a training mission or something misfired or whatever. There was a guy just came out the other day and said, "Okay, you can take Google Maps and that looks really nice. It looks really nice and picturesque." And he says, "But what you don't know is there's hundreds of miles of underground buildings, tons of depth to that. So what goes on the surface is nothing," he said, "compared to what goes down below." And they have trains running almost 24/7. So employees can get on a Janet Airlines, or they can jump on a train now in Chicago, or
Bob
Los
Lazar
Angeles,
talked
or
about that.
wherever, and just give it time. And yeah. Now, there's departments in our field here, departments in the UN that are handling this. They are in the council meeting or whatever, and the next day they're at total clearance, and they will do anything they want. They can manipulate your mind, or they can, do whatever. I mean, so I can show you a badge, or I can make you think you saw my badge, and I just walk in. and a lot of old men in black were that way. They were Syrians, and they were messing with people's minds just as much as anything else. That's why everyone thinks their men in black are so odd. Well, it's because they were extraterrestrials, and they one minute you would just forget. You don't even know where you're at. You don't know what you're talking about. I could tell you
Maybe
stories. I can tell you
the real conspiracy right there.
Yeah, but the real thing is that, and Robert Dean said they were walking down the hallways of his headquarters, at Shape headquarters in work, but they were extraterrestrials. They looked friends, but I do call them family. And it's like, no, Robert, they're not our family at all. Well, anyway, just to make a long story short, the Greys now, because the Greys have more DNA, they can't put their consciousness into a human body, but they can take a human body and manipulate it to where the appearance is human, but it's gray intelligence inside and gray DNA on the inside.
I've heard about similar things.
So,
Abductees being told,
in a few abduction cases, they talk about there's a
that,
human in the room.
you know,
They think it's like,
presented
yeah,
themselves
it's not.
from that person's memory.
Yeah, it's not. It's a
Right.
gray.
Our audio is going to heck again, just so
Because-
you know it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I'll wait a second.
All right. Sorry,
So
no,
we can-
it's jumping around.
Our intelligence can go into their bodies because they have more DNA, but they can't come into our bodies because we don't have the DNA. So to make it all work, they need our DNA to create this envelope, this human envelope for their bodies, so that they can get into, and then they can come to Earth and be okay. I just got a report just today about the Schumer resonance changing suddenly, just changing
Some big spikes in it. Yep.
for no particular reason. It
There's
could have been
no
from the
CME,
CME or near Earth object, but it changed the resonance. Right.
They don't know what it's from.
So something is going on, and that is one of the major reasons why. Right. They don't know. And our sun and warming up the inside of our sun, inside of the Earth, but something's changing that resonance. Now that is the key to why extraterrestrials could come to the planet but couldn't stay very long. They had to leave because they are not designed for that Schumann resonance. Only the human condition has that capacity. So when they come, they can only stay a certain period of time, but normally they stay off planet, and then they come down to Earth whenever things are needed. But they found out over colonization after colonization that they can't stay here very long, and if they run out of materials that keep them alive, like minerals and fruits and vegetables of a high capacity quantity, for them to get the nutrients that they need, they can't stay here. So we're living in, you might say, very difficult times for them, because they want our best. They have our best interests in mind, but the point is, we've got to grow up. We've got to get out of the sandbox. We've got to quit fighting over the planet. And
I'm not 100% sure.
Because if we don't do that, if we don't overcome this barbaric way of thinking, we'll never get into space. We'll never have a Captain Kirk or USS Enterprise or whatever, because we'll just never make it. We just never will.
Just to circle back, do you think maybe some of these underground bases may be responsible for the ley line phenomena that's so hard to explain?
No, the Earth's natural fault lines create ley lines. Now,
How about the loud boom?
You can extract energy from that. So If I build a pyramid over a ley line, I can extract a lot of energy from that if I know how to harness it. But we're not even there.
What about the loud booms, the unidentified loud booms?
I mean,
Yeah, the booms are strange.
I went out to Sedona, Arizona. A lot of people go to Sedona, Arizona, because that's where King Tut is. That's the old Aurora.
Yeah, we may go with
new on top of the Aurora, and they're testing that for hypersonic tourist travel. So 30 or 40 times the speed of light up in the upper atmosphere, and you'll be able to fly from Los Angeles to Shanghai in an hour, because you'll be skirting the upper atmosphere. Wow. And when it comes down, that's where these booms come in, because they have to slow down, and they're using the atmosphere to slow down.
So they're like sonic booms.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, and you get these two booms. They get two booms, and one is when they break the speed of sound, and the other one is when it goes by them. So it goes boom, 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 like that, because they're trying to slow down from going 30 times the speed of sound. And that's very hard to do. Now it's just make big circles and spiral yourself down. The space shuttle came down almost in a straight line. And they said you could hear it. As soon as it hit the atmosphere, it would go boom. And then it would just slow down. And so it could land. And so we can't use the space shuttle anymore, but to go hypersonic, we can get back into the SST range. We can get back into other things that would get us there. And again, hypersonic requires two engines. And then that's the stepping platform to go into deep space. You have to have two engines. And that's what hypersonic is. One is using oxygen engine, like a jet engine, to get up there. And then after it gets into outer space, they turn on their oxygen that they have on board, and the oxygen on board then ignites the hypersonic drive, and then it goes all the way around the Earth. They turn that off, that shuts down, and then as they start to descend, they start getting into the atmosphere. They turn on the other engines, which then get them to land. Now, McDonnell Douglas, Boeing, we're talking about this 10 or 15, 20 years ago. They never got it accomplished. Maybe they got the funding now to do it. We just went through a 20-year war. There should be money laying around everywhere, for this. But it's always amazing that the military would come up with something like the SST, and then it goes to the Concorde. It goes over to the Concorde. The Concorde was the RSST. Okay.
Right.
The SST that we created is the fastest airplane in the world, and it's in a hangar down in Louisiana someplace. It's a church.
Gathering dust.
They use it for a church. So
we had another question
gathering
out
dust,
there.
just like the spruce goose. Yeah. Oh.
Wow.
Liz Milne asked, I've heard, I read it in a book, that if you see the gray aliens, you have to run away from them. Is that true? And are the big ones, are they supposed to be okay? Michael Lynch, I am not too sure.
It depends. It depends who they are and what they're up to. Let me just say this. Betty and Barney Hill could not run. Okay. These guys made them paralyzed so that they could be manipulated to be taken on board or run away. Okay. She's a girl to talk to. Samantha Moffat has been abducted. She's a starseed situation. And I bet her genetic duplicate, you might say, and she was abducted too. But Samantha Moffat has a website, and she's been abducted and by Greys, and she says she talks to them and they mean her no harm, and everything's going along copacetically. I know of Gray interactions. They're not clones, but they're actually Gray interactions with the Pleiadians as assistants to do abductions with and for the Pleiadians. There's tall Greys that are incredibly intelligent. They're like doctors and physicians, and they work with, again, the 16 and the Pleiadians to come down to Earth and work on us. So It just depends who you talk to. Now, there is a cabal of grays out there who hate our guts. And they want the earth for themselves. And they are like carnivorous vultures. They go to planet to take what they want, and they don't care what is in their way. They will destroy it. This is a funny thing. This is a funny thing. Now, I know no one will really understand this as I'm talking about this, but the tall whites say that as an intelligent species develops on any planet, it exterminates all of the other competing species for that place. So have a dog or a cat or a goldfish or hamsters, and, play with them and stuff like that. The tall white with any other race, only the humans do that. And they ask, why do humans do that? And then we said, well, we've developed an environment to where we use these animals for our sustenance, like food and milk and play and things like that. In their minds, right, that makes no sense. That's a waste of energy. It's a waste of energy for them. So they just exterminate it. So they say, if a dog growls at them, they just shoot it. Just bang. It's dead. They don't.
Terrible.
They don't care. They're the alpha species, so they don't care. So you sit there and go, well, man, chart of, who's at the top, because we're not at the top. We just can't be. We just can't be. So.
Well, Michael, our audio and our sound are getting
badges,
a little funky again.
Should scare everyone.
No, don't be sorry.
Be sorry.
It's okay. It's in and out, and
yeah.
You're saying some really good stuff, but I don't think all of it's coming through. So maybe we'll have to do this again. Are you game, my friend?
Yeah.
Do you
want
to come back? Oh, of course. All right.
Okay.
Great. We will do it again. We've run for a while.
Yeah.
And I don't.
We're just scratching the surface here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. No, this has been fun, and our audience had a good
you.
time. We had a great time. We always have a great time talking to you.
And our audience had a great time, and yes.
And there's Liz, who's in Scotland, says thank you, Michael Lynch, for that. I know some of our other friends had to go to bed. They sent us good night messages.
Greg Koss and Philip Wyatt.
Yeah, Phil.
Anne Marie Young. She was at the airport for a little while. She was picking up her daughter, and
we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining the show.
We love you guys.
We really appreciate it.
Steve Uclair.
In my last comment here, I just want to say that the gray aliens at Roswell were synthetic androids. Synthetic androids. They were not real grays. They were cloned synthetic androids of the grays.
Okay.
So that's how far Blade Runner. It's like Blade Runner.
You think they would like artificial intelligence sent here to, monitor things, maybe with the ability to, maybe replicate themselves
of ourselves.
Oh, there goes the audio. I'm sorry. Hey, we can't hear you now. You're freezing pretty bad.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Stand by. Thank you. And
thank you.
We'll see if we can talk in the backstage area, but I think we're having some issues. We're just going to wrap things up real fast. Thank you again so much, Dr. Michael Lynch. We really appreciate it. And this is going to conclude our After Hours special edition.
Yes.
Episode of Bigfoot and the Bunny. We'll see you guys on Saturday. We have Robert Lindsay Milne coming on, our good friend and psychic from the Great White North is coming back. So we'll see you then. Thank you for joining. Love all you. Have a great night.
Bye.